wake up tired. Leaving coffee doesn't help. I wanna set my alarm on fire, but I know that it wouldn't end too well. Would somebody please just help me? I can't quite explain what's happening to me. What's happening to me? Day in and day out, body's aching all the time now. Every day feels like Groundhog Day. Got me feeling like I'm Bill Murray. Would somebody please just help me? We're figuring out what's happening to me. What's happening to me? Maybe it's 'cause I'm growing Would somebody please just help me with figuring out? And I can't quite explain what's happening to me.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to the newest episode of The Meter Incident, a show where folks come to share themselves with the world and sometimes give you more than you'd expect. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. This podcast is for adults, so it contains adult themes, adult images, and adult language. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned, 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 warned,
Live, everybody! On the I'm No Joe channel, still adjusting some slight things in OBS here. Apologies for the oops. We'll get it eventually, one of these days. Live, everybody, for the second inaugural episode of the Meter Incident. The show inspired by the man himself to introduce you fine folks to cool members of the community that you might not know just yet, give you a little inside look into the wonderful lives of the people that we all know and love, just maybe not everybody knows them quite yet. So on this second episode of The Meter Incident, I am very honored to have one of my best friends, one of our creators' best friends, the one and only Miss Lumi Streams. You're muted.
I don't think we ever got to this stage where I've heard you call me your best friend. I think I'm gonna cry.
See, take that. Punch to the feelers. Open it up.
Oh, I'm Meter's best friend, guys.
Oh, how are you doing, Miss Lumi?
I'm doing really pleasant now.
Very glad to hear that. So, like we did in the original, like we will do with other folks from the vape community here, I would like to start this episode out by giving you an opportunity here to tell the wonderful folks watching, whether they are here with us live or whether they're catching this on a replay. Either way, thank you for tuning in. So, give us the rundown of Lumi's vaping story, since much like us and the great one himself, we met through vaping.
Wow. It's getting to the point where I'm starting to not remember, which means I'm thinking it was a year ago, but clearly since I'm not forgetting or I'm not remembering, it's up to 2 years. I started vaping 2 years ago as of March 7th, so we're coming up on my 2-year anniversary. Wow. Wow.
Time flies, huh?
It's wild to think about it because a lot of people might know this, but I went from starting to vaping to just befriending all of the people that I could. Like,
Pay no
it just-
attention to
it
my
happened-
faces.
Huh?
Pay no attention to my faces. I'm fucking with OBS.
Like, I have this tendency of when I find somebody that I'm like, ah, you're cool. I like to just attach myself to them until they force me off. But 2 years ago, I started vaping, and that means I've almost come up on my 2-year anniversary for being on Fresh's show.
Yeah.
Like, that's really quick that I started picking all this shit up.
Weird flex, but okay.
It makes me feel proud. Like, if I can do it, anybody can do it. If I can do what I have accomplished in 2 years with quitting smoking and finding this and being who I am now, I'm gonna flex. If I can do it, you can do it.
So, how did you get to that point? What got you started on your vape journey?
One of my Twitch viewers saw that I was smoking cigarettes and he knew about some of my medical problems, and he was like, Lumi, with all of the problems you have, you should not be smoking. And I was like, fuck it, doesn't matter, sick anyways. And so he bought me my first vape device. And then instantly I have to start researching everything that I can, and I have semi-acceptable goo-goo-foo skills, but my goo-goo-foo skills led me to this point. Within weeks, I decided I didn't want my Smoke TFE12 coil. I wanted to start building my own. So my first RDA drop. Start having the drop, doing basic build bitches, finding out I could buy Clapton wire, finding streams of people making braids for a charitable event, and I asked if I could be a part of it, and then I learned how to braid. Now here I am building braids. Then I'm mixing e-liquids because I need something awesome to put on my coils. And then from there, where can I go? I'm gonna play with resin. Like, this all just took off in the past 2 years. That's hideous. There is some sentimental value in there, but that one's hideous.
Nonsense. The prototype original hashtag Lumi Skull. This is where all the experimentation for all of the crazy fucking things you guys can find on Lumi's Instagram nowadays. This is where it all started. This was the original, the test dummy, the prototype of prototypes. And look at how far we've come.
It's just wild. I didn't even make donuts. A freaking donut just attacked me. I made my shelf. I love resin. Resin's become a very fun new hobby.
I was just gonna say, and you made your way from being a regular smoker without any of these interesting new hobbies to now having smoking out of your life and having vaping as your main lifestyle choice here. And then you've made your way through vaping and found your way into resin work here. So where is it that you find your inspiration to come up with these new and crazy color designs that I've seen on some of those skulls there?
Honestly, it's kind of like how I mix some of my more wild flavors. Like occasionally people will be like, "Hey, this color scheme seems cool." But there's a good chunk of the time I'm just sitting there staring at my wall like, what kind of a wild color can I make? Same thing with mixing. What kind of a wild flavor can I make? It's just, it travels. It's just the creativity that's in me. How can I fuck this up or make it look really cool?
Well, and I think that's part of the reason, as somebody who has watched you in the process of actually making a good bit of the resin work that you do here behind the scenes and seen the creative process take place. I think that's actually, if I dare say, part of the reason why your resin work comes out so uniquely, is because I've seen when you start doing your resin work, you know full well when you're going in, this is either going to come out glorious or it's going to be a total dumpster fire. But either way, here we fucking go, and then you dive headfirst into it. I seen it.
It's the way to go. I learned life is just so much better when you stop giving a fuck about every little thing that you have no control over. Like, of course, I still have anxiety, but at least every once in a while I get the clarity of being like, why did any of that matter?
True. Well, and
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
right. Well, and speaking of anxiety, that actually is a beautiful segue into another thing that you and I and the great one himself as well all had in common, was our love for CBD products to help relieve anxiety and relieve stress. And on such a note, I'm going to give a quick thank you to the wonderful folks over at Humble Hemp for these beautiful CBD pre-rolls here that I'm going to enjoy to keep myself relaxed while we continue on here. But since we do both very much enjoy the benefits of natural anxiety relief such as CBD, do you have a little story about how CBD maybe has helped you?
Um, to be honest, I was doing typical Lumi things, and I was being really dramatic and I had to sneeze. So, of course, I just flopped my whole body forward to just lean into this sneeze and really just enjoy every little bit of it. And I pinched the sciatic nerve going in my lower, like, hip all the way into my butt cheek. That is not a fun experience. And then I go to the doctors and they're sitting there like, we could put you on steroids. We could
Typical
start doing
doctor
tests.
answer.
Yeah, we could put you on steroids. You want some painkillers? Here, go home and take ibuprofen 800 milligrams for 2 weeks straight, every day, 8 hours apart. And painkillers, surgeries, labs, expensive shit. And I'm just sitting there thinking, bitch, please. There's so many better options out there than just running to pain pills. And with my family's history, I do have a family of some drug addicts, unfortunately. I will not touch this shit. Unless it's like
Understandable.
natural stuff. I'm not touching it.
Understandable. Excuse me. That wonderful CBD flower. So, as a person who does, I'm assuming, enjoy the benefits of CBD, what would you say it does the most for you? Because one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to understand is that there's a lot of different things that CBD can do for a person. There's a variety of effects and benefits that it can give. Not everyone gets the same thing from CBD, but there are a lot of different things to be gained from CBD. I personally definitely get the anxiety relief. I also get a little bit of the pain and inflammation relief because I do have early onset rheumatoid arthritis, so my joints tend to hurt a little bit sometimes. So I also enjoy the CBD for the anti-inflammation and the anti-pain properties that it has as well. But what do you enjoy about it?
for me, it was you have to do more than just rely on CBD when you have this kind of an injury. Like, I have to get on an inversion table every once in a while and just take care of my back. I had to start exercising a little bit more to strengthen the muscles in my back. And that's really hard to do when you have a pinched nerve, but it took away some of the pain without being on steroids or painkillers to make it tolerable for me to work through it and get to actually being able to sit down for 8-hour streams. Because if you guys caught me back when this first happened, I was streaming on Twitch in my freaking futon looming. I was making hats on Twitch because I couldn't sit down in my chair. So CBD definitely helped me way more than I'm sure a nice pain addicting substance. No. Or surgery. Pinched nerves. More times than not, you come out of that surgery, you're in worse shape.
Yep. I know several people who have gone in for surgery and come out worse than they were when they went in. And then, exactly like you said, end up on the regimen of pain pills that the doctors want to throw at you.
It's such a shame that they go down that route first. Like, somebody that's trusting you with their life who doesn't have the knowledge of something such as CBD being available, just trusting somebody that's telling them, hey, we don't actually care to fix your problem, but we're going to get you addicted to all of this shit and then we'll help you out from there.
Yep. Such is the way of the Dr. Mills, as it tends to be sometimes. So, to get back to something a little more light than that, then, so we kind of glossed over a little bit. We'll bring it back here to the infamous Lumi braids. And of course, the damn camera's not going to focus, but the Lumi braids have become quite a thing. I think I've got some more around here somewhere. How did you decide that you were going to become one of those coil builders? Because you said you instantly wanted to start building your own things. How did you decide that you were going to go down the lane of braids as opposed to the more traditional route where people get a drill and they start learning to Clapton and then go on from that route and become a drill builder, so to speak?
Getting into vaping, I'm on a limited income because of some medical problems. So I've always had to ponder, what can I do to save money? So same thing, like, I got into coil building because I didn't want to spend $5 on a replaceable coil that could just easily go out within a week. I wanted to make something that I know was going to last, so I just learned how to do the basic ground wires. And then from there, I found out you could just buy pre-built Clapton wire. I could just make my own Claptons now, the same as I would basic wire. And then when it started coming into making the coils, it's another thing that I struggle with for playing video games. I have really bad arm tremors. So doing a Clapton, when you're 4 inches deep, and that's about how much you need, like 4 inches is your touchdown for a single coil. Could you imagine being 2 inches in, 2.5 inches in, and all of a sudden your hand just jerks and you fuck up the whole Clapton? Like, I've seen people reverse them. I've done that. My hands just shake too much, and it was depressing. So I learned how to make coils via braiding when I found out it was an option.
Well, I will personally attest that these Lumi braids that you make are fantastic fucking metal creations. That's the beefy one. That was the 28 strand Celtic out of 32 gauge. Yes. That is a beefy, beefy braid. So now that we know that you love your braids, how did you decide what types of braids you were going to specialize in? Because you do make a wide variety, I do know that, but you also tend to lean towards a couple predominant braids especially when you're recommending them to people.
Honestly, you're the only person who asks for those vertebrades. I believe that's a 14-strand vertebrade. For me, I've just gotten attached to the 14-strand Celtic. When I first started braiding, it was on Braids for Blue charity stream with the Resistance crew. It was Drew, Crazy Face McGee. He invited me onto a stream because he was doing a 24-hour stream. And he's like, I could teach you how to make a fishtail with 26 gauge stainless steel. I knew now why they were all chuckling. My first braid being 26 gauge stainless steel because the blisters were unreal. And then after I did that, I found out you could grow from there and you could go to the 5 loop. So then I was like, oh. The 5 loop took a little bit to catch on to, and it was just the best vape ever. So I was like, why do I need to go up from 5? To be honest, this is perfect. And I spent 6 hours learning the 14-strand Celtic, and I absolutely hated life. But once I caught on to it, that just happened. And then I started doing the odd numbers. Like I do a 4 loop. No, wait. I have them written down. I just make such weird numbers and I wanted to test them all. Okay, yeah, 4 loop vertebrade. And then I started doing, people would always be like 5, 7 loop. I was like, what about 4 and 6? I started doing 4 and 6 too. Still look pretty decent. They vape the same. It's like mid-ranges between some of the ones. More options. And then it grew to the French braids, and then the vertebrades. I don't even know how I figured that out. We literally sat on a stream of what the fuck is Lumi doing, thinking about ways I could twine my fingers in between each other. And then I had to sit there and Google all the different types of braided coils to be like, hey, I just made a vertebrade. I think Meter was here for that when I was sitting there like, what did I just make?
I'm pretty sure because you finished the braid, but you didn't even know what you were doing because it was one of those things you were like, I think I can just do this instead of this. And it literally, like, we could see the hamster spinning on the wheel. And then you just got real quiet for a while, which is how we knew you were serious about it. You just started fucking Edward Scissorhandsing with the fucking wires over there. And next thing you know, you're like, what is this? And you had a whole chunk. You're like, I think that's a vertebrade. And it was.
That wasn't, I think it's a vertebrate. It's, let's Google.
Yeah.
In so many braiders, one of them in particular that people kept linking me to, couldn't even understand. And they're like, you don't need to hear, you just need to see. And it's like, I want to hear though. So I just befriended Drew, Crazy Face McGee. I can totally speak tonight. And Big B Coils. And they've been my mentors in doing all of this.
I've gotten to the point now. I've been lucky enough to help Lumi do some R&D on some braids, as well as making sure that I have a fairly well-stocked selection myself on top of that. I'm at the point now, not that I'm anybody big or anything to fucking brag about, but I have been doing vape reviews for both e-liquid and hardware for going on, almost 4 years now. And all of the setups that I use for my reviews for e-liquids and any of the hardwares where I'm using an RDA or an RTA with the hardware, I make a point to only use Lumi braids in there because the flavor that comes off of these braids, especially some of the wider ones, like the big one that I showed a little while ago, the flavor that comes off of those, because there's so much surface area to create the vapor with, is just unparalleled in my opinion.
That's why my go-to is the drop, which coincidentally was my first RDA. I'll pull up a picture of it. My one and only build that she will catch me using. So much so that when I started exploring with more braids, I messaged people to be like, will you put this in right now and will you test this? Because I have no interest in testing it. I know already I'm biased. Like, I won't use anything else. So I actually reach out to Addie Tooney, Larry, and Meter, and I'm like, If you swear you put this in, I'll give you my very first version of it if you could test it for me.
Yep,
Needless to say, I'm not making Spanish braids.
I have had the very, very fine pleasure of testing out several braids, several that were the only ones that were ever made, apparently, and then the ideas were thrown away.
Oh my gosh, where is it? My one and only build right here. That's all I'll
Nice.
use. 14 strand Celtic on a 5mm crochet rod.
I still am proud to say that I helped ruin you for regular coils forever.
Yep, can't touch anything, and I have coils by some phenomenal builders. I just know I won't appreciate them as much as somebody else will, so if I can pass them forward, pass them forward.
I still use regular coils and fancy coils and built coils in my personal setups, but for all of my review setups, they're all Lumi braids because the consistency and the density of vapor and the crazy flavor you get from any one of the variety of braids, just it's too good to me. It's uncomparable.
Let's stroke my dick just a little longer.
Imaginary penis. So on that note,
No!
when was it that you first decided that shower time was the best time for science?
Oh, I do this all the time. Some of the best creations come right during shower time or after. That's how Team Edward became a thing and why Nick won't let me have baby powder in the house.
Team Edward, you say?
So, we were taking a shower. Typical married little couple. I get out of the shower first, because I sure as hell don't want to be in there while he's washing his butt. No thank you. Wash your butt on your own time. So I get out of the shower, and when I get out of the shower, I'm not reasonable. I'm not going to sit there and pat myself down. I'm going to huddle up in my little towel and complain about being cold while I'm dripping water. So I took this opportunity to dart across the house, go grab some baby powder that I used to have for my feet, and just put it all over me, and then saw the mess that I was making. So I just proceeded to run through the house, squeezing the baby powder everywhere, screaming, Team Edward, kick open the bathroom door because I didn't close it all the way, puff it twice at Nick and go, Team Edward, bitch, and then run out. And just let me things. I've also had to experiment if I could suck my own tit, because science. That happened
Science,
in the
bro.
shower. They were shiny. They were glistening. They were clean. I just had to know if I could suck my own tit.
Sometimes weird science has to happen. So speaking of weird science, the craziness that is the Lumi Mind Palace has created some very unique flavors of DIY e-liquid that I have overheard. What would you say is the most bizarre Lumi-esque DIY mix that you have come up with so far?
Oh, this one was wild. I recently got invited to the Mixin' Vixens as the new Vixen. And every week we have a theme recipe that we have to create. And it looked kind of like a pistachio fancy cake, but it could also be interpreted as a matcha tiramisu with Andes mints around it. And that's what I went for.
Matcha tiramisu with Andes mints.
Yep. It actually came out really cool. My husband, however, did not like the matcha note. He doesn't like floral. So when I asked him for notes, he literally just told me it was like he was hopping through a field deep throating dandelions. So
Interesting.
I had to bring it to Concrete to get feedback, and it was just weird enough for Concrete River to be like, hell yeah.
And that's one of those things that for those of you who aren't familiar with the DIY community, one, get familiar. It's a wonderful fucking tool to have in your back pocket, and it's a wonderful community of people who are all the most eager folks in the world to help everyone out. Two, learn yourself about some Concrete River, because some of the things that man, like, the one thing that I have noticed about the DIY community is that everyone seems to have their own specialty, their own note, or their own area of flavorings that they can work with better than anyone else. For whatever reason, their palate's more sensitive to that particular thing. And Concrete River is one of those folks that I have noticed that can just pin down and hand groom into perfection the weirdest side of the weird mixes. And that's a glorious skill to have, I think.
Yeah, me. I'm just a dessert and a cream queen. You need it creamed up? I'll cream it up for you.
I mean, you are constantly talking about the frothy milky underpants, so. Well, so then in that same vein then, what would be the most weirdest, loomiest resin thing that you have created so far?
It's probably yours. Your stand. Because that stand was just, hey, what can I get away with?
Give the folks
Like,
a good look at this.
I can't tell you how many times I messaged Demeter and was like, hey, what can I do to your stand? Because I wanted it to still be functional, but I really wanted to
It
test.
does have a 510 up on the top. I got some dirt on there. Pardon moi. But
Oh, you dirtied it up.
I am dirty it up. But if you look,
But-
it is two-tone to start with. The hat is a separate color from the skull itself, which is fucking awesome.
I think the hat was me testing food coloring for coloring form. The skull itself was me chopping up eyeshadow because I don't really like to wear makeup. So I had all these expensive makeup palettes. I was like sitting there with I was sitting there with a razor blade on a paper knife chopping up eyeshadow one night, waiting for Nick to come into the room to be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Unfortunately, he just knows I'm crazy enough not to ask anymore. But that was eyeshadow. I put a live leaf in there that wasn't dried. Terrible idea. And then a necklace that my mom made for me had Alaskan slate, like slate black diamond or something beads. Or something, I don't know. It was fancy and it meant a lot to me. And it broke. So I put some of the beads in Meter's skull to see how those would look. And I was like, this has meaning now.
And then I'm pretty sure there's like 3 or 4 different braids in here too.
Oh yeah, I wanted to see how it would react to metal. There might be tinfoil in there. You don't know.
Oh no, I know, because if you go like that,
Oh, there's dandelion seeds in there too.
there's, yeah, I was gonna say there's some of the dandelion poofers, whatever the fuck you call them, and then there's some sparkly foil.
That was how much can I test in one batch?
And then yeah, there's a bead down in the base. And then I think the other bead's in the eyeball there.
And then that foaminess that's between the top hat and the bottom of the skull is from where I found one of those trees that has the fancy looking leaves on it that look similar to hemp leaves. I went and I picked a bunch of them off of the tree. I brought them back and just threw them in there. It had a reaction with the resin. It wasn't having it. It did not like a live leaf with still oxygen and moisture still in it.
I'm still happy to have it.
The newest addition to that was the gloss coating because I was like, Meter, can I try putting a gloss coating over here? Meter's
And
just
I
like,
believe
sure.
only the top half was glossed.
It's probably on the. You can see it's in the crevices because at the time I didn't know I could just use a toothpick to clean that out.
But the best part for me is that the gentleman with the top hat matches the gentleman with the top hat that I have on me forever, because it's kind of one of those things that I tend to collect. So not only do I have the prototype, I help use that prototype to get Lumi to teach herself all these neat little tricks, and I got some cool shit that matches shit that I already collect and have, so there's that.
Skullception. I remember Rye. Rye wanted me to put some legs, like make it a Toy Story skull. And instantly I started thinking, oh, I could bend a fucking metal knife and just make a mold out of it, and I can make you some legs. And he was just laughing at me. He's like,
Yep.
do it. Do it.
Rye was half the reason that I came up with the idea for Skullception. So to explain to you folks listening to this or watching this, I'm a firm believer that I am not the only one who would be interested in one of these. But actually, you're gonna have to show them because I've got the top hat version. I need one of your regular skulls, please. Okay, so the regular skulls that she has here, Rye actually showed us that he had found some, I would say probably less than quarter scale, maybe 10th scale size skulls to that one. So my thought is to take one of those smaller ones, put some glow-in-the-dark paint on that sumbitch, maybe even coat it with a little bit of this fancy glow-in-the-dark resin that I've seen her tinkering with a time or two, allegedly. Take that small glowing skull, put it inside one of those regular size skulls that's clear, maybe with a faint little bit of that glowy in a different color maybe, and then to take that skull once it's done and put it inside like a regular size or a large size human, like proportionate skull of resin as well for full skullception.
The only thing that sucks about doing something like that, it sounds like it's so much fun, but nobody's going to actually want to pay for the amount of work, the amount of resin it's going. You. I don't know how many other people are going to be like, hey Lumi, let's drop $60 on resin right now and make a skullception.
Do you have your links handy?
Not even including what you would need. Like the stuff that I use to make my own molds of any skulls. Like, that's like another $30.
Do you have your links handy?
My links?
Your links.
I wasn't anticipating links.
I know. It's like the Spanish Inquisition. No one expects it. That's a joke for the crowd.
There we go. Links are in the chat.
Okay, so help me prove a point here, audience. Take those links, look at the work that Lumi does already with skulls, and tell me that my skullception done through that artist's hands wouldn't be a fucking cool idea and worth a little bit of coin.
I think I've sold a skull. Who has it? Is it Lawson? I think Lawson has the skull with skull confetti inside of it.
I think so, yeah, I think so. Which would also probably be a cool thing to add to the skullception skull, to one of them. To like the middle one maybe, or the larger one if it's all clear with like skull confetti in it, with the skull in it inside of it.
Now I have a quick question for you. Did you get this idea when I was talking to RJ about getting a dildo shaped cake mold and getting sperm penis confetti inside of it? Did this idea come up at all during that? Because I was going to do the penis within the penis and the sperm in the balls.
I think his idea for the penis mold with the sperm confetti inside of it actually came from Rye and I discussing the skullception idea.
I'm the one that plotted out that whole thing. I don't remember that being encouraged.
I'm pretty sure that's how that came through.
I remember when that person ever came through with me making that project, I filled their wish list with a bunch of garden hose. Told him I was no longer working for him and all he could buy me off of the wish list would be a bunch of hose. Don't get me excited for a project and just dangle a piece of cheese in front of me. I'll give up real quick. Give me the cheese. I want it now.
Well, so speaking of weird projects and keeping in the Lumi vein here, what is the weirdest thing that you have made with wire that you ended up just giving up on and not even giving to a person?
Wire?
Yeah, braid wise, wire wise, contraption wise, how you tinkered and then didn't even give to anybody. Something that you were Lumian with and just didn't even let the light of day see for anyone else.
Is that supposed to happen?
You've never made anything so weird that you didn't show anybody else?
I'm pretty sure I've sent most of the stuff out to be like, what the fuck did I do?
That's true.
When I started
That's
doing
true.
the cord braids, you guys all got the cord braids, flawed and all, and I was like, hey, what do you think of the cord vertebrae? Hey, what do you think of the, what is it called? The centipede? Or I don't even remember what the other one
I
is
don't
called.
remember
The
what the other
Celtic
one is
braid
either.
around cores.
I don't remember either.
You guys all got that. Even Rye got them, and I was like, Rye, you better not shoot these because they look well. These are like first editions. Once you get me onto something, getting me off of it, if I have the means to keep on it, is pretty damn hard. Because I'm just hellbent. It'll bug me. I will not be able to sleep until I complete it.
Well, and keeping on that hell-bent trail then, for those who don't know, aside from doing the meter incident episodes like this channel is predominantly known for the I'm No Joe podcast, the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. And on that show, some of us rather rabid hardcore MMA combat sports fans tend to get very heated and very in-depth with our analysis of fights and fight breakdowns and fight situations. And we have a segment on that show that is one of the most popular segments and fan-loved on the show. We like to call it our casual corner, where we bring in a little bit less foaming at the mouth, hardcore fan, and give a Joe Everybody person's point of view, as it were, to the fights. And that point of view is brought to us, wait, no, you're weird. There we go, by our very own Miss Lumi. So
I reached pretty hard on there. I fucking Kanye West your ass last night.
allegedly.
How can you call me non-hardcore?
Well, and that's one of the things that I was going to get to, is that we originally started out that segment because when we would be talking about our punchy kicky shenanigans on the I'm No Joe show and making our rabid in-depth analysis picks, we could always count on Lumi to literally pull up the stat sheet of the fight without doing a bit of backlog research and make a full set of casual picks based on walkouts and numbers and the look the guy has or girl has on their face.
I'm not. You make me seem really judgmental. I start getting
I mean-
pissy though when you get somebody with biblical tattoos all over them. And then what was that really pissed me off about his tattoos? Not only did he have a biblical, I think he had something going down his happy trail or something. So you go from being Jesus-y to a fucking male prostitute escort, and it just contradicts each other. So of course things like that fucking trigger me. Don't have a bunch of biblical context and crosses all over you and then have fucking whorish tattoos going into the netherworld. No. Own it. Own it. You're gonna be a whore? Own it. So I call them out for that. And basically when I'm picking my fights, I just want to see the person that's more liable to make somebody take a nap. I just want them to win. So I look how many hits per minute they get, how many decisions they get. If they get a lot of decisions, you're on my shit list. I don't want to watch you. I'm not here to watch you sit here and play. I'm here to watch you take a nap.
Yeah, it happens that way. And that's the wonderful thing about the world of MMA as well, is that you can be a fan of any or all of it, even if you just want to see people take naps.
I like naps.
Everybody loves naps. But we do also have an MMA event coming up this weekend, and despite the only Kanye West moments we got on last week, and generally on the I'm No Joe podcast, we get our casual corner segment where Lumi comes in and gives us her less researched than our picks, I guess would be the best way to describe it, because she's not really full casual anymore because we've kind of got her hooked and we've kind of started reeling her into the hardcore side, but she's not full rabid foam at the mouth analyze technique status like some of us are. But we're getting her there. We're getting her there.
I don't know. I don't know if you're getting much more effort out of what I put into this. I spread myself pretty thin, but I still manage it.
You also do watch a lot more than you used to as well, too.
That's because I can't help but to support one of my best friends when I see them. Literally, Meter looks like a kid on Christmas every Saturday that there is a fight. It doesn't even matter if it's a bunch of soup cans. He's just there to watch people fight. And when you see somebody so passionate about that, you can't help, unless it's foosball. I'm sorry. I don't love you that much. You can't help but to start to be like, okay, I can get behind this. Like, I want to support my friend here and have fun with my friends. It's another chance to hang out. I'll pick it up.
We
Can't
do
help.
have a pretty good group of folks that are starting to build. We've got a fairly regular group of folks who are starting to get together to watch some of these fights with us here. It's very entertaining for me, and because people have described my color commentary, as it were, very similar to how you have as well. We are actually in the process of trying to set up one of the things for, at some point in 2020, to do a combat compatriot style event during a UFC or BKFC where we get to do what we normally do without the broadcast of the audio or video. The folks at home would be able to just watch along with us and see our reactions in real time, because some of our group get kind of enthused as well. I know that I definitely get worked up, especially when we get some good matches, but we've got some fairly entertaining folks that I think pretty much enjoy the fights on a similar level to me as well in our crew.
I'm growing this thing.
We definitely are. We are trying to. But we are getting to be about that time. So we are going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Ms. Lumi, if you could drop your links in the chat one more time for the fine folks, and maybe tell them where they could find you now that this is going to be over, if they need a little more Lumi in their life.
So glad we're running out of time, because there's questions that I knew you were writing down that I've just been dreading you possibly bringing up.
Gotta keep you on your toes
There's
for
the
the next
links
one.
to. There's the. Why you gotta spotlight me? Can you undo that?
Yep.
Undo that. I don't.
Okay, you're good. I'll do it while you talk. You're good.
I'm waiting for it.
There you go. You're good.
You sure?
Yep.
I'm good?
See? Look, you're back.
There's a delay.
Of course there's a delay. It's YouTube. Just watch.
Oh, okay, now I see it.
See? Told you. You're good.
There's all the links to hunting down the wild Lumi.
Outro.
Outro? What's the outro?
If you're hunting a wild Lumi.
Did you fucking re-spotlight me?
No, not at all. I was just waiting for you to do your other outro. You know, the outro you do on regular shows.
You re-spotlight. I'm watching the stream.
Shit. I totally didn't spotlight you. Look, there's just a delay, remember?
I'm debating on how much of a bitch I want to be right now, which we both know it's fully capable.
There's a delay on the stream. Look, you're totally back to normal, side by side, right there, gallery view.
Fucking devil spawn.
Look. I thought you were watching the stream. You can't see it's back to normal?
Screw me once, shame on me. Screw me twice, shame on you.
So
I
if
knew
folks,
it! I fucking knew it!
what? It's side by side. Look. There's a delay in the stream. Look, it's totally side by side. See? It's just a delay in the stream.
So we're gonna take a nap? I'll take a nap. I'll do it.
You're side by side. I'm letting you tell people where they can find a wild Louie.
You're gonna put it right back on Spotlight.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're side by side.
Hold your hands above your head. Now give it a couple of seconds and you make sure you're not fucking with me still. Put your feet on the floor!
That was not part of the deal.
Anyways, fine. I'll just fucking do it. You're a whore. You're a whore. An absolute whore. But anywho, if you're looking for me, you guys could find me on Twitch. I stream video games. I needed to share some of this outrageousness with the world and make some friends. And that's why I started streaming. So, the more the merrier. I just appreciate being around people, especially people like this. Fucking put your hands back up, you little fucking prostitute.
I'm
you
reaching
little
for
bitch.
my
I'm
liquid.
fucking shit
I'm
on
reaching
your
for my
ottoman and
liquid.
stick
Look.
my fucking asshole across your nose.
I'm dripping.
Or you could click on those links to Discord and Instagram and Facebook. And if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you. If you need help with DIY, I'm here for you. If you want to get in contact for some braids, resin work, I'm here for you. It's part of me giving back. Honestly, this community has done so much for me. It's the least I can do to give back.
So thank you for taking part in the second episode of the meter incident, inspired by our good friend, the one and only Vape. Everyone who has watched this and enjoyed it, please take a moment. The link is in the description. Go back, watch the original, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Show it some love. We miss you. Hashtag be like Rye. We're going to call it all for this one, though. Remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless you think Epstein killed himself, in which case...
I have a peep.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip, and a kicking from the hip. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing.
How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.